Hey everybody, it's StephanieShideler with Motivation Monday for the SUP11 City Tour. So the first question is, how do you mentally and physically prepare for paddling? So for me, to have confidence when I line up on the start line, it's knowing that I've done all the hard work. So it's having a really good training plan and knowing that I've put in the work day after day, hour after hour, so that I know that my body is going to be ready for whatever is thrown at me out on the race course. Second question is, what's your favorite exercise? Paddling is my favorite exercise, but in order to become a better paddler, I think strength training is really important for my body. It not only helps increase strength and power on the water, but I find it keeps me relatively injury-free. So fewer aches and pains, better alignment, etc. Third question, do you have a special diet? Well, I have been a vegetarian for over 35 years, so I guess that's kind of special. I try to eat mostly whole foods, plant-based, so a lot of fruits and veggies. I find that my body runs better when I have more veggies in my diet. I do admit to having a soft spot for ice cream and wine, but I try to keep that to a minimum. So, as a vegetarian, I do pay attention to my protein intake to make sure that I'm getting enough, so that I'm recovering well after my workouts and I'm building muscle. Okay, question 4. What do you change in your training routine for long races? So for all racing for me, I think having a really solid base is important. So whether I'm preparing for a 10K or 26 miler, I still in the preseason I'm going to focus on something that's a little bit more high volume, and then I can either add intensity to that or add more volume to that depending on what I'm training for. I typically train for races that are more in like the Carolina Cup up to about 26-mile range. But if I were, or when I train for, a multi-day long ultra distance race like the 11 City Tour, I think it'll be really important to have a good plan that I work on with my coach. And I think it'll be about building up tolerance to just being on the water day after day for multiple hours, and also building efficiency, so making sure my body is efficient from a fueling perspective. Being able to maintain a high speed at kind of lower effort levels is going to be a critical part of kind of the training plan. And admittedly, I'm a bit of a technology geek, so I like looking at a lot of data about my training. So I think I would also be very careful that I'm not overtraining and I'm not undertraining. So just making sure my training load makes sense for my body. I'm not overly fatigued. I'm not going to get myself sick by overtraining. So, okay. And so the last question is, can you give a stroke technique or race tip? So I'm not one to necessarily give stroke technique advice. I think something I have been working on myself is using my lower body more for power, so finding more strength through my legs. As far as a race tip goes, I think, when you get to the starting line, it's knowing that we do it because it's really fun. And kind of, you're in the middle of a race out there, and I tend to have a feeling of just being really lucky that I get to do this. And also I think when you're out there and you're hurting really bad, it's knowing that everybody else probably feels just as bad as you do. So it's just about holding on and pushing through that pain, but also knowing that we're really lucky to be able to do that. So that's all from me.